This fan base is amazing. The city of Cincinnati is amazing, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Desmond fakes a handoff, runs to the right. He's got all sorts of room to the 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Bearcats! 20, 25, toward the middle of the field at the 35, and he is gone! Trey Tucker will take it 98 yards to the house. A nip at night knockout as the Bearcats send a message to the college football world. Did you see that?
Howdy, folks. Welcome back to Viva La Cats, the Cincinnati podcast representing the 1012 network. I am your host, Justin Hiles, accompanied by my great friend, Steve Maurer, and we cover all things Bearcats every single week in our episodes, releasing on Wednesdays, as well as our post-game reviews, which we did not do this week on Twitter because it's the beginning of the season and it's EKU. It's pretty easy. So speaking of EKU, we're going to kick it off right there. Steve, what came out of that game?
Well, Emory Jones lighting up the damn scoreboard and being named Offensive Player of the Week and Newcomer of the Week in the Big 12. So, Justin, I'd say some of those offensive concerns that I talked about were assuaged this past weekend.
Absolutely. And all concerns are qualmed now for the rest of the season. After beating EKU, we are fully confident in this offense and have no question marks left.
As the SEC Shorts guys said, everything that went right for us in this game will happen right for us all season until we win the championship.
And that we will, when we're very scared of reaching bowl eligibility at the end of the season. Hopefully not. Hopefully things go well. According to current rankings in the Big 12, your Bearcats are actually sitting in the top half, and not just sitting in the top half, they're sitting in the top 5. And that's all we're going to say about that, because that is a legit stat. And that is something that carries weight. So let's just leave that there. But going back to EKU, this was a very, very fun game to watch. And I think it was a very fun game to watch for a Bearcats fan. If you're like me, if you're like Steve, if you're like the grand majority of Bearcats fans who sat through the entire offseason from the day we hired Scott Satterfield and said, what do we have? What do we have on this team? Like, what should I think of this team? They gave you a lot of things to be confident about. They gave you a lot of things to be excited about, a lot of highlight plays. I was clipping the game as I usually do, and I'm telling you, every single time I finished a clip, I'm starting to record another one and do another. Like, it was just full of touchdowns, highlight plays, defense, everything. End-to-end offense, defense were working. So it was a lot of fun to watch. But from the very top, opening drive of the logo, Emory laid out a perfectly placed lob to Xavier Henderson for a 50-yard touchdown. That really reminded me of the classic, like, Des Ridder to Tyler Scott that we'd open up with a nipper. We did it like probably 4 or 5 times when those two were playing with each other. And it was like, it's just fun because you open that up and you're just waiting for that like streaky run where it's like, all right, we're just going to break away and go score and get some confidence, get some, momentum going. And it happens super fast. And so speaking on Emory as well, he's mobile, man. Like, I don't think there's any question about that. I think he fits perfectly into the scheme. Again, he's kind of that Malik Cunningham model type that Scott Satterfield likes. And so he really showed his mobility in this game. And I think, like, there weren't a lot of times that he was necessarily getting rushed. I mean, there was a few there, here and there. There were some, tackles for loss. There were a couple sacks here and there, but it looked better than it did a lot of times last year. Granted, a lot of times last year, you got a different quarterback, you got a different O-line, you got a whole different situation, but against EKU, it looked good. As far as, some of the offensive side of this, we did get beat over the middle. But I think it kind of quelled sort of throughout the game. I think the defense definitely didn't show its complete dominance, but they showed that they're good in their quality, and we really shouldn't be concerned about them. It wasn't a defensive show the whole game. It was more of an offensive show, which I think is where most of our concern lied too. You're on mute, Steve. Sorry.
Damn it. Well, would you say, Justin, that is like part of just the defense, like first game kind of thing, or is that more just indicative of what we might see for the rest of the season?
I mean, I think coming back to some points that I've mentioned before about where our defense could be exposed, I think there were some concerns about some of that, just, throwing the ball over the middle, throwing the ball out to the sides. Like, I don't think necessarily on like deep balls, like it was just like, we're having major concerns there. But I think really it was just overall, they seem pretty tight knit and pretty sound. There's just a few little gaps here and there that I think they could work on. And really, like I said, I think it kind of comes down to first game. They'll gel and they'll get it figured out. Danny G, man, that guy is a monster. And he showed it, even in this first game, like he found his way to snake back through, make some great tackles. And I think a lot of those like question marks that we might have had about some of the new guys, not necessarily like, if they're good or not, it's just how would they gel in this and how would they adapt to this scheme? I think it worked. I mean, it showed that it worked against EKU. We'll see how that works against Pitt, but
Justin, real quick, let me plug. We do have on our show, and we went on theirs, a little home and home action. The Loyal Sons, a Pittsburgh Panthers podcast. We went on with Dylan, had a great time. Got to talk to Squid for just a second before he had to go, but got to do a little cordial shit talk back and forth with them. So definitely listen to our show, and if you want to hear the Pitt side of things, listen to their show. But that'll probably be coming, Justin, on the back half of this.
Back half.
But yeah, definitely, like that was great to have someone with the Pitt perspective on. Had a good conversation about it, so you'll hear that later. But sorry to cut you off, Justin.
No, you're good. I mean, I'm still there's a lot of things that happen in this game, so it's is what it is. Of course, we didn't do our post game recap, so naturally you'd find that on Spaces, and we try to like boil this down a little bit tighter. But regardless, I think some of the other highlights, of course, the wide receiver room looks absolutely sound. And I really do think, even though you're playing EKU, you're seeing a lot of the athleticism of some of these guys, and you're seeing some of the versatility of options, which is definitely a big thing to key into going forward. Especially you never know what the season's going to throw at you, if there could be injuries, if there could be, guys who might, not be doing so hot one game. If you can have some interchangeability in that wide receiver room, that's really good, especially considering how much loss there was in the off season and how much more just plug and play there was, and not really knowing what to expect. So they gave us a lot to be excited for there. Of course, to also add Bearcats that scored touchdowns. You could damn near count 10 of them. You got almost 2 full hands worth of Bearcats scoring touchdowns, which I think is insane considering that Emory Jones was a part of 7 of those touchdowns, which really shows you how dominant the Bearcats were in this game end to end. But again, I mean, between the running back room getting really involved, Ryan Montgomery, Kiner running super hard. Sorry, Miles Montgomery. I mean, Ryan Montgomery was in there too a little bit, but the running back room as a whole, I think was sound, and that definitely did show that there's some potential there. Kiner put up a lot of yards in this game. He was very, very much a part of pushing the ball forward, which I think is going to be important for us. Having that, I'm still curious to see how this works out throughout the season. If Kiner's really going to be the bell cow, or if we're going to try to play like 2 guys back, kind of swap them between downs, or if this is just going to be a one-man kind of show as far as running backs go. But we'll see. I mean, we got to see all 4 guys run this past game, so that was really nice as well. Overall, I mean, is it time to get excited about this team's potential? Is it time to get crazy? Is it time to say stupid stuff, or should we just pump the brakes a little bit?
I believe so. I believe it's time to say the fun stuff, because 1-0 going into a big game against a former Big East rival, a team that we're pretty familiar with. I don't know why you can't just be like just excited and just have fun for this little period of time, because I mean we're not promised anything. We're not sure if this team's going to really be like 9 or 10 win good as we were in the past. It's a little bit different spot for us. We're going to be the underdogs. We're not really expected to do much. And when on the other hand, the past few years, we're expected to do a lot. I think the weight of those expectations being off now, Justin, it allows for this fan base to just go have some fun.
That's
like
true.
talk some crap without any without reckless abandon. Like just go enjoy it, man.
See, I don't want to cut you off, but this is actually, you make up a really good point there, because the amount of times of the past few years where it's like, you want to talk shit, but if you lose, you are screwed because like you're supposed to win. This time it's like, we can talk as much shit as we want because ultimately if we lose, it's like, well, you were supposed to win anyway. Joke's on you. So I mean, it's not as much pressure, but sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah. And also, dude, no, I agree with that completely. And it's also nice to be able to talk some crap to another team's fans without only 3 of them responding. Like, as we've talked about, Pitt, there's been a lot of niceties said by the fans and the teams this week, but it's just fun to talk about what this team could potentially be. And, obviously, Justin, I want to mention this real quick. With the Baylor loss and how bad they looked on Saturday, they're coming in Nippert Stadium. Maybe you got a shot there. Oklahoma State still figuring out their quarterback situation. I don't believe that they're going to be bad just because of they were figuring out their quarterbacks, but you never know. Iowa State did look a little bit better, but that was against Northern Iowa, so we'll see how that goes. And then we're not going to play against TCU and Texas Tech, but they both lost on Saturday. Neither of them conference games, so it does not matter. But I tweeted this out on Saturday night, Justin, with the Will Ferrell meme where he's like just rubbing his chin, looking into the camera. But is it possible, Justin, that we could be one of the better teams in this league? Maybe better is not a way to say that. Let me rephrase it. Is it possible, Justin, that we are a good team in this league?
Yes, and can I give you a hot little bit here that I'm actually finding out as we go?
Hit me with it.
Okay, so at Pitt, Bearcats, according to ESPN's matchup predictor, this is what we're going with here. At Pitt, not favored. Miami, is it a question? Of course the Bearcats are favored. Oklahoma at home, not favored. However, on the road at BYU, Bearcats 65% favorites now.
And
Iowa State.
That's another one, Justin. They played really poorly, and they only beat Sam Houston State by 2 touchdowns. And we just talked with a Pitt guy who said Keaton Slovis was not very good.
Correct.
2 points.
There you go.
To UC's favor.
Iowa State. What are the Bearcats? Take a guess.
They're 55%?
65% favorites. Baylor.
Interesting.
Take a guess.
70.
65% favorites. Oklahoma State. Take a guess. On the road.
65?
55% favorites.
Really?
UCF. Take a guess.
I'm going to say we're 65% favorites.
46. We're getting in there, but Houston 61%. Okay. West Virginia.
They didn't look great either.
66%.
Oh yeah, they look
and
bad.
Kansas 78%. So right now, what ESPN's matchup predictor is saying that we are going to lose to Pitt, we're going to lose to Oklahoma, and we're going to lose to UCF. We are going to win out the entire rest of that schedule. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wins, according to ESPN's matchup predictor. So take what stock you want in that, but there is a bit of a high from the media on the Bearcats right now, and I'm sure it will be quelled after this weekend.
Hey, they were telling us to play a Power 5 schedule, and now we're going to play it. We're finally getting that respect.
Yeah, that's true. We play EKU, and now we're suddenly going to be we're potentially competing for the Big 12 championship.
I don't think it will be that way. I'm still trying to just temper my expectations and say that 6 is still a good number. But, I mean, just watching the offense play well and the other teams around the league not do as well as expected, it leads you to think it's possible that UC could be a little bit better than the so-called experts think.
Yes, indeed.
So, Justin, I wanted to do a little stat breakdown for us. Shout out to gameonpaper.com. If you're ever interested into any of like the advanced stuff that about UC or any other game, they have every game, I think, for the past 15 years, and they just take ESPN data from the game and the stats and make some analytical and not so analytical takeaways from it. So, the Bearcats averaged 9 yards a play. Pretty good, I'd say. If you're trying to average 3 yards a play to get a first down, 9 is pretty good. 15 yards of pass play, 6 yards of run play. Obviously, that is incentive pushed up by those two 40-yard plus passes and Emory just being pretty good on Saturday. 6 yards of run play too, Justin. I saw Corey Kiner had the fourth most rushing yards after first contact per attempt this weekend.
He was dogging.
Stat, I know, but yeah. I told you all to watch out for Corey Kiner, not getting much talk. And hey, I know it's just EKU, but he looked pretty good. 57% success rate for the offense. Obviously, EKU, that's very good, but still pretty impressive to see. EPA without explosive plays for EKU, a -20, negative 14 with. They only scored 13 points, and they didn't. Justin, when did they score their touchdown? Was that like right before halftime? Second quarter, I think.
I'd have to look back on that. There was so much Bearcats scoring, I honestly forget.
Yeah, but a 39% stop rate for the defense, pretty good. Again, obviously, this still comes against the number 177 ranked team in all of D1, according to the Sagarin rankings. There are about 290 teams in all of D1, including that's FBS and FCS. So, again, placing the grain of salt on my shoulder and then taking it immediately off. Cincinnati is now number 30 in FPI, number 42 in Sagarin, 38 in SP+. Our upcoming opponents, Pitt, number 28 in FPI and SP+, number 33 in Sagarin. So, as I mentioned on the Pitt podcast that you'll hear later, Pitt is about a 7-point favorite, but if you get that 7.5 point line, I would take that for UC. Mm-hmm. Maybe even a little money line sprinkle too.
It's like Luis. We talked with we talked with the Loyal Sons guys on this too, but this is a very tempting weekend to put some money on the Cats, just because it could go anyway. It really could. And I though Pitt is favored here, this is the measuring stick game for the Bearcats. I mean, for the entire rest of the season, I think week 1, unfortunately, can't really be a measuring stick game for 90% of teams. Unless you're like an LSU or a Clemson who gets the measuring stick game and, the truth comes out very fast. It's one of those situations where I think for the Bearcats, you look at this game against Pitt and you look at what the implications are late season. You win this game. This is a swing game for the Bearcats because you expect to beat Miami. And if you don't, you've got some real problems. You have some real problems if you can't beat Miami, but you expect to beat Miami. So if you win this Pitt game, you gather one against maybe Iowa State, gather one against Baylor, who really did not look good losing to Texas State there. You gather one against Kansas or a West Virginia or a Houston at the end. This is that swing game where that's your number 6 if you're not having a great season and you're looking to find a bowl eligible team. And so I think there's a lot, like I said, of late season implications just riding on this one game. But on top of that, in the early season, it lets you know what you can expect going into a game like Oklahoma, because Oklahoma, of course, blew out their opponent 73-0, which is just incredible. Great for you.
Sad Butch Jones made me happy.
Yeah, sad Butch Jones for sure. That was rough. Like, I honestly kind of felt bad for him. Like, I don't usually feel bad for a Butch Jones. I never feel bad for a Brian Kelly. I never feel bad for a Tommy Tuberville, and I will absolutely never feel bad for Luke Fickle ever again. Sorry, the bridges are all burned there. But, Butch Jones, like, being comforted by a player, that's a tough scene, man.
Did he hold the rope when he was holding that 73-0 L? Did he represent the C when he was representing Arkansas State in that 73-0 L? Sorry, I'm just not a Butch Jones.
I mean, credit to Venables. He's got it figured out. Just took them and manhandled them, but that's besides
It
the
is
point.
Arkansas State and Butch Jones coaching them.
This
but
is
yes,
true.
Fair enough.
This is true. But again, playing this game against Pitt, you have a bit of a you're going to figure out what you should expect against Oklahoma, and you're going to figure out whether or not you think the Bearcats should be in this game or whether or not you think the Bearcats should be trying to play catch up the whole time or trying to just stay in it. And that's really my biggest concern here is if I feel like that confidence meter is going to go down pretty quick if this game is not close. If it's a, one score game at the end, which I think we all kind of expect it to be, I think that's great. Even if it comes out to a win, if it comes out to a loss, either way, like the win I think is favorable. The loss is sort of kind of been an expectation for a while, but I think riding off the high of EKU, maybe we should expect to win this game. Do you think that's fair? I mean, because we talked about this again, you will get more in depth on this later, but you do get Satterfield in this game, which is a huge advantage going into it. So Satterfield, knowing Narduzzi, knowing Pitt, we know Narduzzi, we know those schemes, and he's not one to change. I mean, I think there are some advantages here to take advantage of Pitt and possibly pull out a win on the road.
See, the difference, though, is that obviously Pitt had Keaton Slovis last year, which does make me a little bit more excited for the BYU game that we are going to after his performance. And then I watched the highlights of that Pitt game, and man, he threw some horrendous balls. And so, it makes me feel a little bit better about that BYU game. Phil Dracovic, though, smart guy, Notre Dame, Boston College. I guess there's smart people at Pitt too. He like we just talked to those guys. They said he's looking like Ben Roethlisberger, and I'm scarred by just watching Ben Roethlisberger dice up the Bengals too many times. So if the offensive line is able to protect him, then maybe it might be a long day. Justin, you're not listening to your own podcast that you're on, though. Justin, what did I say? No expectations. Just talk trash without anything behind it. I mean, come on, now if
Eat
you're like
shit,
Hummer,
Pitt.
If you're like Hummer, shout out Hummer, you're going to expect us to win every game because you think Cincinnati's good enough to win every game. And while I really appreciate that mindset, I just want to be a little bit more realistic about it.
Did he not take I thought he took the under on the Bearcats.
Yeah, but
but you can't expect it. You can't take the under and expect the Bearcats.
I tried to make the
game.
Point about Satterfield as a bridge coach and that we're not as crazy as Ohio State, and he took offense to not being as crazy as Ohio State, and he said we should be crazy. And I'm like,
well, that's fair.
Okay,
that
so if you're like Hummer and you think every fan should be crazy, then you should be expecting a win this Saturday. If you're like me, no expectations, just get to enjoy the game. Maybe don't expect to win, just be interested in seeing what happens and seeing how a good Pitt team, I don't know if they're top 25 good, but they're still a good, solid team. Narduzzi's got a good program over there. See how this new Bearcats lineup stacks up against Pitt.
Well, let me just run back here just a hot second. Let's go over exactly what this stat line was, because I think it was kind of interesting. And I just want to know if this is going to carry over, even in some remote fashion, to Pitt. Emory Jones, 7 total touchdowns, 5 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, 345 yards, and 0 interceptions. I don't care if you're playing an FCS team. That little snippet there, that ain't nothing. That ain't nothing. What that shows you is that somebody has the ability to do a little bit of everything. And so, I think that we've got some major advantages here. Like I've said, mentioned before, I think when you look at the wide receiver room, when you look at, kind of where our defense expectations are, I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying, Steve, but personally, I think we should be expecting that we can win this game. I wouldn't say that. How about we put it this way? I don't think we should expect to win this game. This is a safe side. I think we should expect that we can win this game.
Okay. Yeah.
That's fair. It's not a no bars held, but this is like we should be in this game. We should be in this game to the end, to the final whistle. This should be a 1-score game.
Should not be.
That should be the expectations, regardless of how it finishes out. I do have one thing that I want to hit here before we jump over to our Bearcat sports wrap up. We have Scott's Tots. Scott's Tots is a fitting new segment for Viva La Cats, where we will be taking your votes and applying them to our show to tell you who you voted for as your MVPs of the week. So the first part of this, of course, I think if your quarterback wins Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week and Big 12 Newcomer of the Week, I think you have to pick him. So Emory Jones won 94% of the popular vote here versus the field for the Bearcats as player of the game. So congratulations, Emory Jones. You are the Bearcats Scots. You are Scott's Tot, number 1 Tot. As far as the Bearcats rushing and receiving player of the game, screwing this up. The consensus vote was Xavier Henderson. Should we call him Xavier Henderson or is it Xavier Henderson?
Well, I'm always going to call that other school Xavier, but I think you're fine to do the little X with the Z on the end. So,
Xavier.
Yeah.
Xavier. Okay. Xavier.
I just call him Hendo Ocho, baby.
Hendo Ocho. There you go. Fitting name.
Or the X-Man, either one. But yeah, I like Hendo Ocho.
I'm sure there's going to be plenty of nicknames if this guy keeps lighting up the way he did. But congratulations, Hendo Ocho. You are another one of Scott's Tots. Bearcats defensive player of the game. We're going to have to get used to these names, man. I'm going to screw this up because I heard the broadcast guys saying this differently than I've known it. Danny G, we're giving it to you. You are Scott's Tots defensive player of the game. I'm saying Griezik, but I don't know if that's a proper pronunciation. Greasiak. Okay. That will be the proper pronunciation.
But I like Danny G though. If we're doing the mafia theme, Danny G.
Danny G, you are Scott's Tot defensive player of the week. And for the final, Scott's Tot defensive player of the week, Scott's, wow, you can tell this is a first time segment. For the final Scott's Tot of the week for special teams, the clear winner, unfortunately, Mason Fletcher was not really in this one because Mason Fletcher had to do absolutely nothing except punt one time in this entire game, which was even surprising at that. I think he still boomed it when he did, so congrats to you. But the winner, Carter Brown, going for a 46-yard field goal and going 9 for 9 on extra points. So for those of you who have been concerned about the boot for the past 2 years, we got a long season, but you might not have to worry about much. I think we're in safe hands here, or safe feet. Safe feet. We're in safe feet. Well, actually, okay. You're Allstate. You're in safe hands. This is not a free ad for Allstate, but Allstate hands catch the ball. So congratulations, Carter Brown.
The show.
You are the final Scott Tot of the week. So that's that.
I love it.
Justin, a much longer segment than it needed to be.
No, we need Mr. Scott. Was he going to do to make our dreams come true? And we need to recap it every week, Justin. We need to let the people know, because if Scott is not going to tweet out, by the way, Justin, I do like that Satterfield runs his own Twitter clearly. Like the, because Fickle did not, shocker, I know, but Luke Fickle was not tweeting out happy birthday every day to all the players on his roster. But, I do like that Sad does that by himself. But, anyway, speaking of Bearcat sports that were on campus and around campus competing in red and black this weekend, cross country, we asked y'all to do some work at Miami, and you did. Shout out to Tyler Worth for finishing first in the Red Hawk Rumble with a time of 18 minutes and 1 second in the 6K race and being named Big 12 Runner of the Week. Men finished first and women finished second in the event. So, Justin, pretty good sign ahead of the Victory Bell game coming up. Oh, yeah. Volleyball. Zeta Washington was named Big 12 Rookie of the Week for her performance in the Golden Eagle tournament. 5 kills a match. Pretty dang good. Bearcats won 5 kills a set. I'm sorry. Pretty dang good. Bearcats won the tournament to advance to 5-1 on the season and will host South Carolina in 2 huge matches this weekend at Fifth Third Arena. Get out there if you can. Soccer. Bearcats were unfortunately unable to secure a win against Michigan teams this past week, earning a draw against Central Michigan at home, and then going up to Ann Arbor and unfortunately losing 1-0. They will play at Butler Thursday before hosting Pitt Sunday. So maybe we can do the double this weekend, Justin.
Maybe we could.
Finally, we're going to finish up with the golf teams. Men's golf finished 5th in the Marquette Intercollegiate this weekend. That just wrapped up on Tuesday, and we'll play next at Knoxville in the Tennessee Invitational this upcoming weekend. Women's golf will start off their season by hosting the Jennifer Duke Invitational this upcoming Monday and Tuesday at Los Sandoval Country Club. So if you're interested in watching some college golf, get on out there and support our Bearcats.
Support them, Kitty Cats. This has been a very fun little wrap up and start to the season. I think there's a lot to be excited for if you're a Bearcats fan. And again, if you don't have ESPN Plus, if you haven't had it before, just get it now. I mean, the Bearcats are playing a lot of Big 12 teams. Watch your other sports, support your other sports, support volleyball, support soccer, support everything you can. And because I think that really does, we tend to focus so much on football and basketball, but there is a lot of other quality games going on throughout Bearcats athletic department. So make sure to focus in on those. We really do want to prop those up. As far as what we've got for the rest of you guys, again, we are bringing on I guess the Loyal Sons actually brought us on to their show. So we're thankfully able to have that recording with them too. So that will be following this up here. Just giving you guys a little bit of a preview. Just a few topics kind of around the trophy that is no longer being had apparently, and kind of expectations for this game this week, as well as some little past annotations. So it should be a fun one, but please stay tuned for that. And we'll see what happens this week, man. I think there's a lot of potential for the Bearcats. I think they've got a legit shot. And if you start 2-0, you're hoping to walk into Miami and, take care of business in your non-conference. It's a much different outlook for the season really fast. So we'll see what happens.
Looking forward to it, Justin. It's a big weekend. I hope we're playing Sweet Caroline in the post-game spaces, all singing Eat Shit Pitt. It's going to be fun.
Should be a lot of fun. And so with that, we'll leave you guys off to the interview there between us and the Loyal Sons guys from Pitt. So thank you for listening this week. And be in tune for that Spaces post game on Saturday. That's going to be a fun one. Hopefully it's going to be a fun one. Even if it's not fun, it's still going to be fun. It's always a joy to talk to you guys. So make sure you're there and can give your takes however well or poor that game goes. But again, thanks for listening this week, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Go Bearcats. Viva
La Cats. Hey there, folks. We at 1012 Network and Viva La Cats podcast have recently started a partnership with our good friends over at Charlie Hustle Clothing Co., and they are today's sponsor. So be sure to check them out because they are a vintage-inspired clothing company based out of Kansas City, and they specialize in collegiate and hometown apparel. They have many, many offerings for over 30 schools. They've got all your Big 12 schools covered. They've got your original Big 8 schools. It is a very, very cool selection of clothing from them. They've got a lot of original designs that you really can't find anywhere else. And I think that the execution that they have there is honestly really, really cool. So they've got a lot of new stuff for, again, a lot of Big 12 schools. You can rep that school spirit all season long. We are still working on getting Cincinnati in there, as well as we are the only Big 12 school left to conquer, but we are hopeful. We are very hopeful that we will be in there soon. But regardless, go over to www.charliehustle.com and make sure to check that out. And I would like you guys to remember that there is a promo code, which is 101215. That is TEN1215, which will get you 15% off all non-sale items. And that is good for this season. So please be sure to check that out. And remember, Charlie Hustle is vintage made fresh.
We'd like to welcome on to the show, and this will be a joint show today with the Viva La Cats pod, the Cincinnati Bearcats fan podcast. We've got Justin Hiles and Stephen Maurer. I didn't even ask you how to pronounce your name. Is that right? Did I hit it?
It's Maurer, but don't worry about it. You're good.
Well, we're here, fellas. Guys, we can't thank you enough for taking time to do this with us. This should be a fun one.
Absolutely. We're glad to be on.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
And you'll you listeners, you'll hear Squid. For Viva La Cats listeners, he's one of my co-hosts. He's actually taking this one from his vehicle. Squid, why couldn't you make it back home tonight to record?
I'm at my dad's 60 softball league championship. I thought the games were 7 innings long. Every game I've been to prior has been 7 innings long, but I guess the championship is 9 innings long. So a little late, but I can see the field from here, and they're up 15-3. If they lose, it'll be
nice
content. I'll keep you posted, maybe.
Love it.
Yeah, let us know if Paul hits any dingers out there. Watch the windshield. But yeah, guys, I mean, we want to kick it off with like the hard-hitting question. It's on top of everyone's mind. What are your thoughts on losing the paddle wheel trophy to the River City rivalry?
We will not be losing that because it's not on the line now, I guess.
Apparently no longer exists.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Apparently from what I read, there was a mutual agreement that when the rivalry ended, that it would not be passed back and forth anymore. So we're glad to not have to give it to you, and glad to not give you guys hope that you'll get it back either.
Well, okay, let's just all put our cards out on the table here. Do you all consider Cincinnati a rivalry? I know it's been a while since we were in the same conference together. I know we had a couple good games against each other, but just as Pitt fans, do you consider Cincinnati a rival? Or obviously we're not on the level of, West Virginia and Pitt or anything like that, but I'm just curious what you guys would have to say about that.
I'm old enough to remember Marty Gilliard in the snow, and that alone puts them on my shit list. Sorry, do you guys swear on your podcast?
Yeah,
all the time.
Perfect. I would say my toes still haven't thawed from watching Marty Gilliard that one fateful day in Heinz Field. So for that reason, I'd say yes. I think back then we were. Now it's tough to get hyped for because you're right before West Virginia. So it's like, we know them. We're old buddies, but
yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe it'll be more personal for either side following a loss. I think it's hard to really like feel it going into it, but you'll definitely feel it coming out of it. It's kind of like drinking, honestly. It's more like a hangover. You'll feel the hangover from the rivalry, and you'll hate one side, and the other side will be like, I guess it's fine. But I would say from a Cincinnati side, I think that we probably see it as more of a rivalry. I don't know. I mean, I think there's still a little bit of like animosity there, just a little bit. I wouldn't say that it's, even on the level of some of the current teams that we've been used to playing. But as far as like, if you go back, it's like Pitt and Louisville. Like those are the teams back from our Big East days that were like, yeah, we don't like those guys as much. But especially Louisville. We really hate Louisville.
Yeah, I think it loses a bit of its luster now that there's not the trophy on the line. I mean, I think every rivalry game should have a trophy. It just makes it better, especially when they're as ridiculous looking as the paddle wheel was.
Yeah, the dumber the trophy, the better.
Yeah, completely agree. 95 pounds of glory. It should be lifted high above either field, I agree.
Yeah, but I think, looking at most of these old Big East teams, the teams we played in the Big East games, I still feel like it feels like there's a little more history there. Like I know for us, like Virginia Tech probably wouldn't consider us too much of a rival. Like they have Virginia, they have some of those games, but for some reason, it feels like every time we play Virginia Tech, I'm like, I really want to beat this team because we do have the history that goes back a little further. Whereas now that we've been playing in the ACC, we've developed hatred for North Carolina,
right.
Florida State and their fans, even though we don't play them all that much. But there is something special about these old Big East matchups.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a little bit of that magic rekindled. I mean, that's why we're excited just to be able to play West Virginia again, just to bring back some of those old memories. And I mean, I'm sure there'll be some back and forth over the next few years too. So if only we could get Pitt as well. I think that's definitely a marquee one. I'm not gonna steer us into realignment talk because that's gonna take way too long. But at the top of our list is Pitt in Louisville to steal from the ACC should the cookies crumble in the right direction. But
Yeah, we've tried to put in a hard stop on realignment talk now that the season started, but if David was here, he'd try to open up that can of worms. But we're gonna try to stay away from that too. But
our official statement is we'll go wherever we're accepted. That's our official statement.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, no more realignment talk. I'm putting a stop on it right now. But so can't learn too much from games against FCS opponents. Both of us went through that last weekend. But what do you guys, can you give me like your 60-second, 2-minute rundown of what you guys felt coming into this season with so much turnover with Cincinnati, and really what the expectations were for this program from a Cincinnati standpoint? I know Big 12 media has you guys pretty low in the preseason rankings. They do the same thing to us every year in the ACC. So what was kind of the expectations for you guys as fans for this Cincinnati team?
You want to take it, Steve?
Sure. So I used the term, we were on a Kansas podcast last week, and I used the term measured excitement because obviously with the loss of Luke Fickell and the loss of a bunch of guys to the transfer portal, the mood around the Scott Satterfield hire as well. Not many people crazy excited about him when he was first hired. I do think going into a tougher league, that lowered the expectations a little bit. If Fickell was still here, maybe people would be thinking it could be an 8-9 win team in the Big 12. Now, I think people will be happy with just getting to a bowl this year if possible. So a couple things are changing in the conference. Maybe some teams aren't going to be as good as we thought they might be. I think it'll be interesting, though, to see what happens with Satterfield because, I mean, again, you can't really take anything from an FCS opponent, but they looked good. Like I got to temper the excitement, of course, and I'm sure Pitt fans will say the same thing about their game this past Saturday. And I think this is really a good test for Cincinnati to see what the level can be this year. You know, we really respect Pitt, great team, obviously 2021 ACC champions. Satterfield did beat them last year, even though he was at a different school. But I watched the highlights of that game, and it was just a crazy game. I don't really know if that came down to coaching or anything. It was kind of just nuts. So I'm really looking forward to it, though, and especially against a former Big East rival. That's just something that everybody's looking forward to and excited about.
Yeah, I could say we were in attendance for that game against Satterfield last year. And there's this guy named Keaton Slovis. He plays quarterback out at BYU now. He threw some of the most abysmal interceptions I've ever seen through that game. And we turned the ball over a few times. And that was really, I think, for Pitt fans, I mean, we lost to Georgia Tech and Louisville last year, and those were the two low points for us. Pretty brutal overall. But so I'm not going to lie, playing Satterfield again scares me a little bit.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that we look at too. You know, going into a game like Pitt, I think we were more nervous. Okay. How do I measure this? This is going to sound crazy at first, but I think we might've felt a little more nervous looking at it from the perspective of having a coach like Luke Fickell who doesn't have that experience against Pitt. Not that if we had Luke Fickell still that we would be scared to play Pitt, but I think having Satterfield really made us a lot more confident going into that game, having a guy who knows their scheme and knows exactly what to do to play against Pitt. That is such a huge advantage that a lot of teams who are having a first-year head coach at their program are not going to have. You know, so I think that's a major advantage for us in that wheelhouse, because not only that, I mean, Louisville fans, I'm sure will clip this and argue as much as they want, but you're taking a system that Satterfield had with pretty much all of the same staff, a lot of the same coaches, a handful of those players as well, and you're upgrading the talent in a couple of those slots too, moving it over to another program. I mean, what's to say it wouldn't be more of the same? You know what I mean? In a game like that. And so I think there is a bit of advantage. However, I do respect the fact that I think Pitt does have, they've got a bit more going for them this year too. And so, you know, that I think is a bit of an advantage as well. But overall, like just having Satterfield in that game, I think is really, really clutch for us.
Yeah. And I think for Pitt fans, I think there's going to be some worry. I know some of the local media asked Narduzzi in his Monday presser, just like scouting a team that has all these different players and all these players from all. You're not watching a team from last year and it's 8 of these guys were on this offense. Yeah, so it's like it's kind of nerve wracking to think that we could walk into Acrisure on Friday or Saturday night and it's just a team that we're pretty much completely unfamiliar with, and then Satterfield has that tape on past years Pitt teams.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing that I wanted to bring up really fast too, is because I've mentioned that on prior shows, is that this, I think, for the first, especially for non-conference, but for the first 3 to 4 Big 12 games for us too on our schedule, that is the biggest advantage, is because you have zero tape of Scott Satterfield Bearcats except for what they put up against EKU. And, sure, that's some of the system there, but what we showed at EKU is that we have 8 guys who can score a touchdown. What we showed at EKU is that we can absolutely run over a team offensively, and yet we don't really know what that measure of our team is yet because we haven't played against a team like Pitt yet. And so not having that tape, I think, is also a massive advantage, which, again, I think I'm not trying to talk myself into like there's certainty for Cincinnati, but it definitely feels a lot better going into this situation than I think Pitt fans might feel looking at it optically.
Yeah. Justin, would you not look at it? You can only look at it optically. There's no other way to look at things. Literally, you can only look at that. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
You can look at them introspectively.
Sure. Fair enough. I will say, though, that Coach Satterfield did mention today about because Narduzzi mentioned that Cincinnati's wide receiver room is really, really good. He did mention Satterfield mentioned today in his press conference that he really respects the Pitt defensive backs and corners room. Mentioned a couple guys that were there when they played against Louisville in 2020 that got a pick or two off of that Louisville team. So I think it's just going to be a big challenge, and especially we know Coach Narduzzi from his time at UC when about 15 years ago. So it's he's a defensive minded coach, and he's really going to try and stop us any way he can. And just with that Power 5 talent and level, this is going to be the biggest bellwether mark. And I think it's good to have this right away just to see where we're at year one and if that bowl goal that I mentioned earlier is possible.
Yeah, and you mentioned the DBs for Pitt. I mean, Pitt brings back 3 corners who've played a ton of football. Marquez Williams, AJ Woods, MJ Devonshire. 3 guys who've played a ton of football for them, played in ACC championship games. We are replacing our 2 starting safeties. Eric Howlett and Brandon Hill both got taken in the NFL draft last year, and we've got 2 guys back there who've played a lot less football. So I don't know what's the O-line situation look like over there, because Pitt's bread and butter on defense is always that front 4 gets pretty ferocious.
I mean, I think Cincinnati looks at that, exactly what you just said, and feels the same way. And so I think, like, O-line wise, we still have a couple question marks as to how these guys are going to gel in a, big time game, big time environment. I think, you're not necessarily returning a lot. You don't really have a lot of knowledge of these guys either. And so, with a lot of changes happening there, it's kind of hard to say confidently, like, this is how this is going to work out. But overall, I mean, against EKU, there was plenty of time. I think on top of that, any concerns that you might have in the O-line, I think Emory Jones does give you an advantage as well, because he is very mobile. I mean, there were so many times where, he'd take 2 steps back, go in a little spin cycle, and next thing you know, he's hucking a shot down the field about 40, 50 yards. And so having an O-line that may have some holes is definitely problematic, but having a quarterback that can maneuver some of those possible issues is definitely helpful too. So I think it's still a little bit up in the air. I think Pitt really, like Steve said, is going to be the big measuring mark for what to expect from this team moving forward.
And to play devil's advocate to you, Justin, real quick, Cincinnati did give up 6 tackles for loss and 2 sacks on Saturday against Eastern Kentucky. Obviously, they were in situations where their receivers could just be more athletic than Eastern Kentucky's players. So, again, this will be a good level for us. But, yeah, just always been impressed with Pitt's defense and how they're able to muck it up and make it like just a defensive game where if, things are going the wrong way for Cincinnati, it could get really ugly on the defensive side.
True.
On the offensive side for Cincinnati, I mean.
Yeah, I appreciate the praise there, but this has been a little cordial for a game that's supposed to be a rivalry game. He has a rivalry name in it. Tell us why you're gonna beat us. Who are your top dogs? I mean, I know Emory Jones had 7 touchdowns. I don't know if I'm completely sold on him after watching him play at Florida past couple of years, but what do you guys see and what do you guys think are like if you have to give me 3 names of like these are the studs on Cincinnati's roster this year?
I mean, so far, if I'm going to give my 3, whether you agree or not, Emory Jones feels like a stud. I mean, FCS or not, putting up some numbers, like honestly making some really accurate passes, not making anything that was really dicey either, finding guys out in the open. Like he did a fantastic job of that this week. I would say Xavier Henderson, that man looks like he could ball out this year. I mean, and this is one of those things where you're figuring out how much stock you're putting in a game against EKU, but this guy clearly does have talent. And there's a bit of familiarity there too. And there's some chemistry, I think, that's building in that wide receiver room. So I think that's a big bellwether mark there. And I mean, honestly, a name that you're going to hear a lot, Dante Corleone, Jawan Briggs, Eric Phillips. Those guys are dogs. Like those 3 on that defensive side of the ball they're going to wreck shit. You're going to hear those names for sure.
Dante Corleone's an all-time football name.
That's
a good one.
Touch it.
Yeah, not to be too more cordial before we get back to the shit talk, but I know Yins like to put fries on your sandwiches and stuff. So Dante Corleone, when at Skyline, he has his own order called the Godfather, where he puts the chili and cheese Toledo, and then he puts fries and habanero and uses habanero cheese instead. So just obviously the Godfather name is a big part of his thing. He's one of our big NIL athletes. He's got his own burger, his own pizza, and soon enough he'll have his own Skyline order too. So, but yeah, he's our big guy up front. And also, Justin, I would mention Deshaun Pace as well, local Cincinnati kid who's going to be playing a little bit of that rover position, and he could get out and break up some passes or blitz the quarterback. So I do think that if Cincinnati is going to find a way to win this game, it's going to be that our defense is going to have to win the turnover battle, make a play, and get to Phil Jerkovic, whose feet look like they're trapped in cement.
Hey, he scampered for 24-yard touchdown this last. I mean, it was against Wofford, but he scampered. I will say, looking at Phil, you guys know he went to Notre Dame, played at BC, but he's a local guy to Pittsburgh, played at Pine Richland High School, and he was like the chosen one, like won a state championship, was all state multiple years in a row. And one of his things was actually how athletic he was. And he was a super good hooper, like 2-hand dunking in 7th grade, like that type of freak athlete. And now he just looks like he's just putting on as much weight as possible to be like a Ben Roethlisberger-esque. We did a golf outing that Phil attended back in July, and like seeing that dude, like he looks like a tight end. So that's the one thing we were wondering, like, can he still move? And it's not, like you said, he doesn't look super nimble, but he's doing the Ben Roethlisberger, tossing defenders off, staying in the pocket, shaking guys off. He's going to be hard to bring down. So much like we're going to have trouble taking down Emory Jones, I think his is more just being a quick switch type guy. You guys might have some troubles trying to get Phil down, especially these early season games when you really haven't been allowed to hit quarterbacks yet. I mean, I know we had 4 sacks last week against Wofford, but it was also like guys are coming off the edge untouched. That's one thing I worry about is like, are these guys ready to get after a mobile quarterback, get him to the ground?
Well, I mean, if hitting Phil's anything like hitting Ben, you kind of just have to, tap him. Just tap him and he's out for the season,
Justin,
so.
You know what Ben was like as scarred Bengals fans, we understand, man. Like it took, I don't know, it might have taken 6 guys to get him down
Yeah,
when he
was
was
crazy.
like at his peak. No offense, weight, you know, like it was just hard to get him down, man. So I do think some of those guys we mentioned can get in the backfield, you know, because you're going to have to focus on at least 2. And another guy we didn't mention, but Daniel Griesiak, he's going to be coming as like that outside stand-up linebacker type of guy who will creep down and get on the line. Yeah, he could technically maybe try and like just if you're focusing too much on Corleone and Briggs, maybe Griesiak just beats his man one-on-one and gets back there. But you just got to make sure you wrap up, hold on, like don't let him go, because then that's where plays break down, and then obviously we just haven't seen this defense be tested like that yet.
Well, and in a blitz situation too, you're always going to feel it coming from every side. But like, I think Cincinnati's pressure, especially in those kind of situations when you have all of those guys that are that talented and can break through that line, it's going to come from all angles. But we'll see. I mean, and this is a thing that I think EKU kind of exposed a bit, and we'll see how this goes against Pitt. If you throw to the outside, if you throw, you know, a couple edge of the sideline plays, you might be okay. Like you might find some success there. I mean, we'll see how that goes. I think there's a lot of opportunities for the Cincinnati defense to kind of lock down. But right now, I think that's probably one of my larger concerns in sort of that short, quick passing play game, if we can defend that well.
Dylan, I want to hear from you. Why are you guys going to beat the crap out of us? Like, you know, let us have it, man.
Yeah, so I think it really, for Pitt, a lot of the season leans on just what they can do in the trenches. We return a lot of experience on the O-line, a lot of talent on those O-lines. And then, obviously, as I said, on the defensive line, like Charlie Partridge, we believe we lead the country in sacks since 2019. I mean, that's just part of how they play. It's all about getting after the quarterback and kind of causing havoc up front. I think the big thing for Pitt right now is I feel a lot better about where we are as an offense than we did last year. Phil Dracovic played for Frank Signetti and had his best college season under Signetti at Boston College when he was the OC. And we have a stable of running backs who I think can be really, really good. You look at Rodney Hammond, he was the number 2 guy behind Izzy Abanikanda last year, but before he got hurt in the backyard brawl, I mean, he kind of was taking over that game to kick off the season. And it looks like, you know, they only gave him 5 carries last Saturday. Want to keep him fresh, but he looks like he has a little bit more pep in his step. And he's a guy who's been productive at the running back position since he was a freshman. I mean, he closed out the win over Clemson in 2021 at home. They basically just rode him to victory in the fourth quarter as a true freshman. So between me kind of just feeling that the defense will figure it out, just because Narduzzi seems to usually get it figured out with the defense. I think compared to last year, the team that lost to Scott Satterfield had a quarterback that no one really believed in the locker room and didn't really mesh well at all with the offensive coordinator. So a lot of our hope is on that offense being a little more explosive, being a little bit more talented, and having a quarterback that these guys have actually rallied around and believe can take them and win them games. And also, you have to come to Pittsburgh for it. Not that not everyone's gonna sit there and call us. There's going to be people calling out the yellow seats in Heinz Field, and attendance state fans from the middle of the state of Pennsylvania will probably be bragging about how many people show up to their game on Saturday. But you're going to be in the North Shore for about 5 hours with people tailgating. Game doesn't kick off till 6:30. You're going to have some rowdy Yinzers in that stadium.
CW game too. Like it's going to be.
I can't believe it took us this long to bring up. It's the first broadcast on the CW.
You know, and I have not talked about this yet, but Steve, I think this does make the trifecta for Cincinnati, because we've had the Facebook live stream against Marshall back in, what was that, 2019? Yeah, 2019. We've had some other horrid streams, especially on the basketball end. I'm trying to think of what the other worst football stream would be. I'm hoping that the CW is not that case because, of course, for those of us who are outside of that stadium, we would like to watch the game, and hopefully it's good. If we can watch like any of the DC shows or perhaps some reruns of some old CW shows, picture in picture, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I saw some tweets going around that there was some other. I don't obviously it wasn't college football, but whatever was being broadcast on the CW, they were just like cutting away from it before the game was over. I think it was some baseball games or something. So good luck to you guys. You're not going to make the trip in.
No, we're not in Cincinnati.
I mean,
so.
Steve, what did you say? You're in Arizona.
Yeah, I'm out in Arizona and Justin is in Nashville, but our
There's some
Discord
direct flights from there.
Yeah, that's true. You gotta check, make sure, see what we got this week. There are some people in our Discord though that are really excited about making the trip up and going to this game. I think that's one of the things that sucks about. Obviously, we're really excited to be in the Big 12, but missing out on some of those local, regional, like drivable rivalries that people are really fans of. I mean, obviously, Bengals fans and Steelers fans go back and forth every year. I think people do kind of miss that about having Pitt, Louisville, West Virginia in the conference and having a lot more easier games to get to rather than just having to take a flight to Texas or, drive to Iowa. It's a little bit different. So it'll be nice though, to be able to have some fans there. I just am excited to see what this game looks like. And I'm just hoping for a good game. I mean, obviously I don't want us to get blown out, but I think a great game on the CW. Gilmore Girls coming on after the show, after the game. What more could you ask for on College Football Saturday?
What do you guys think of that line then? -7 is what I saw it at earlier today. I don't know if it's moved at all, but I saw it at -7.
That's I think you're gonna want to bite on that if you're a Bearcats fan. But
no, I saw 7.5 today. I mean, you're gonna get the half point, you got to take the half point. I do think that Pitt probably has the better talent and probably can win this game just from reading some projections and looking at some roster and such. But if you get a 7.5 line as a UC fan, I think you got to take that because there's a possibility that you could get run out of the building, but there's also a possibility that it could be a 21-14, 24-17 type of game. And if you're within that 7.5, I mean, great teams cover.
Speaking of the 24-17s of the world too, the over under here is 47, which is very interesting because given that these two teams are very, I think, traditionally defensive minded, you would expect that it'd be a little bit of a lower score. But I'm curious to see what we get because we could either end up with a rock fight, which is really what I'm expecting, or it could just be a, slinging one down the field. I don't think that the defenses will really allow for that. But I do think personally that it's probably going to rely on the run game for Cincinnati, and it's probably going to rely on the passing game for Pitt. And so depending on how that goes, we'll see. But I don't know. The 47, I think, is enticing too. I would probably take the under there if it were me. But I did want to mention one other thing that I found recently. So if you look a little bit closer into the FPI rankings, so Pitt sits at 28, Cincinnati sits at 30. Some really good opportunities there for either team for a good quality win there. Of course, we talk quality wins because this is football season, not basketball season. But regardless, I saw that Cincinnati's bowl eligible, 6 wins, bowl eligibility percentage. I have no idea what it was at before, but given that the spread was what was it, 5.5? Was that the mark for the season, Steve? I think it was 5.5.
The
right?
over under, you mean?
Yeah. 5.5. Sorry. The over under was 5.5. The Bearcats are now sitting on ESPN's FPI for the 6 wins mark at 85%. So there's been a lot of confidence instilled in there. And Pitt's actually at 82, which I find very interesting because I do not think that there was much confidence there for the Bearcats before they flattened EKU. And now we're going to ride that into the sun, which actually, for once, the media, I think, gave us credit for beating an FCS team. And it seems they've done so for Pitt as well.
Yeah. Man, I think they had us at 6.5. Some of the Vegas lines for our wins, and we're all Pitt fans were like, all right, we're being disrespected again. There's great value here. But then looking at our schedule, I think we're gonna go over 6.5. I just don't touch that because I'm mush, and whatever I bet on, the opposite will hit. I mean, Vegas has a funny way of doing that. So same with the -7 for this game. I don't think I'd touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah, because it's just the too many variables there, and obviously you don't really know what Cincinnati can bring in this type of game, and maybe it's a thing where if it's early and Pitt runs out to a quick 14-0 lead, you just bet the live line and just say, okay, we're like,
that's fair.
It's starting here. So I'm a little bit of a gambling fan, I'll say, so. Definitely,
Steve has a problem.
A savant,
right, easy. Savant. There we go. Yeah, that's a nice way to say it. But yeah, I do think if you don't like that 7 line either way, and something happens right away in the start of the game, definitely look on those live lines and see if you can get any additional value.
Man, if this game starts off. If this starts off with Pitt down, I won't be pulling out my phone to place any bets. I'll be puking in my seat. Like, I'm already nervous. There's something about, like, we play a FCS team, and it's like we're worried about how we're gonna all get to the tailgate, what kind of food we've got going. Like, do we have the generator so we can watch the noon game in the parking lot? In this game, it's like it's Tuesday, and I'm like, oh no, did Emory Jones get it figured out? Is he finally, like, 6-year Emory Jones, gonna just light us up? So no, I'm super excited for it. I'm glad Pitt's playing this game, and like I know we want to make the trip to Cincinnati next year. It's an easy road trip, so it'll be cool to see. I don't think I saw a single Wofford fan last week. I don't know that they exist, so it'll be cool to see some former foes, friends. I'll put in air quotes there. With you guys, but
frenemies.
There it is. But yeah, man, I'm excited for it. I think this should be a good one. I think the CW hit a home run choosing this as their first game to put on the network. But do you guys want to give me a score prediction?
Ooh, Steve, lead off. Lead off so I can play off you.
Okay. Well, if I wanted to be mean, Justin, and I'm not being mean, but if I wanted to be mean, I would say 45-44 Cincinnati wins. But that's just
all right, we're
being
done
mean.
There. Yes.
Being mean.
Yes.
So, and I love the Bearcats too much, and I would not expect any person who's a fan of their team to really pick against them. So I'll say we win 20-17, late field goal.
I respect that. We typically don't pick against Pitt ever. It took a lot last year when someone finally did it. It was like a big ordeal. Like, should we do this or not?
Yeah.
You're like replaying it like 5 times in post, like wondering whether or not you should just edit it out. Yeah.
Well, and then us in Cincinnati land, like, we've been pretty spoiled over the last few regular seasons. I mean, we didn't really lose many regular season games until last year, but like, it was for a while there, it was pretty sure bet that the Bearcats were going to win on Saturday. But now, new league, new harder competition, we might I might be picking the Bearcats to not win a couple times this year.
Well, I will not be partaking in that tradition of not picking the Bearcats. It will be the Bearcats on Saturday, as far as I am concerned. And I'm going to say, like I said, I think it's going to be a rock fight. Do I think it's going to be a low-scoring rock fight? No, but I don't think the ceiling is very high. I'm going to put it at like a 20. I'm going to put it like okay. Given concrete feet, Phil, we're going to go 26. It's going to be a weird score. 26-21, I would say. That's going to be my final there.
Well, just remember what you said about Phil come Saturday night when he's breaking one down the sideline.
When he's lighting us up for 70 yards on foot.
I'm telling you, he's quicker. He's quicker than he looks. That's funny. Your score was oddly close to what I had picked out. I was pretty much just going off Vegas knows everything and I know nothing. And that seven points, it'll probably be pretty close to that. And it'll probably be pretty close to the 46. I was going 26-20. Pitt doesn't cover, but pulls it out. And like you said, I think it's going to be a weird game. It's still early. Neither team has played a Power 5 opponent yet. And I think there's going to be some sloppy play. I think you're going to see a handful of turnovers, and probably the difference is whatever team can take care of the ball a little better. So I'm going with my Panthers. I have to. And my co-hosts aren't here to defend me or tell me I didn't pick them to win by enough. So 26-20, that's my final score.
Hey, there you go, man. That's fair.
And if we get that, then the money coming in from the CW could completely change the trajectory of realignment in college football. But guys, I appreciate you guys so much for coming on and doing this. I know we had some technical difficulties on our end, but this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really appreciated it. And then we'll send you a picture of the paddle wheel if we do win on Saturday.
Even if we don't, we'll send it to you so you can just know that you don't get it anyways.
Does it still sit in a storage room somewhere? Do we know the whereabouts of it?
I actually asked today, and a good person who would know told me it is in our business office. So we don't have it out in front in display anymore like we used to back in the Big East days, but we still do have it. It's a little bit different than last year when Louisville had to ask a guy who had the keg of nails at his house to give it back to them. And then like, I don't even know if that guy got it back or if it's still in the football trophy case, but
let's be fair. I mean, I know Scott Satterfield didn't coach in that game, but law of transitive property. I mean, Scott Satterfield and Louisville staff went to Cincinnati, so shouldn't we have that back? That's only fair, right?
Unfortunately, we did not win the game, but I mean,
well, fuck it. Who cares? I want the keg of nails.
I don't know what like how they do trophy rights with college football rivalries, but I do know that when we win on Saturday, the Loyal Sons will be storming the business school at Cincinnati and demanding the paddle wheel. Whether our administration cares for it or not, the fans want the paddle wheel, and we want it out front and center. I'm still holding out hope that someone's going to get mad enough about this, and they're gonna find a way to get it to the stadium on Saturday.
You know what we'll do? We'll send you a picture of it with Steve polishing it with a terrible towel.
With a terrible towel, I can't touch that.
No, with gloves. You got to have gloves on.
With my Bengal towel. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. That's fair.
This has gotten sufficiently disrespectful. Fuck Cincinnati. Let's go, Pitt.
Hey, fuck Pitt.
Perfect.
Pitt.
It's a rivalry now. I'm Pitt. Yeah, you guys asked us earlier. We consider Cincinnati a rivalry. If for nothing else, you two.
There we go. Sounds good. We did our part, Justin.
Yes.
Love it, guys. Well, hey, have fun watching the game on the CW. We'll be front and center watching it. But thanks again. Can't thank you guys enough.
Thank you again. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Looking forward to it.